Single mom asked, "Can you pretend to be my brother?" The single dad CEO said, "For tonight, yes." The little girl was shaking with fear as she held tightly onto her mother's hand. Across the crowded hall, judgmental eyes followed them everywhere. Her mother tried to smile, but inside, she was falling apart. Then, with tears threatening to escape her eyes, the single mom turned toward a stranger and asked a question she never imagined she would ask. "Can you pretend to be my brother?" The man she asked was a successful CEO, a widowed single father who had spent years building walls around his heart. And his answer would change both of their lives forever. Before we begin, if you believe kindness can change lives and that everyone deserves a second chance, please like this video, share it with your friends, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring more emotional stories like this one. The winter wind swept through the city streets as Emily Carter hurried toward the community center. Her 7-year-old daughter, Lily, walked beside her, carrying a small handmade gift wrapped in bright paper. The Christmas charity event was supposed to be a joyful evening for families, but Emily felt nothing except anxiety. Life had not been kind to her. 5 years earlier, she had lost her husband in a tragic accident. In a single moment, every dream they had built together disappeared. Since then, she had worked endless hours, raising Lily alone while struggling to pay rent, keep food on the table, and maintain hope. People often admired her strength, but they never saw the lonely nights when she cried after Lily had fallen asleep. They never saw the fear she carried every month when bills arrived. They never saw how desperately she wished someone would simply stand beside her and tell her she was not alone. That evening was especially difficult. The community center was hosting a family appreciation ceremony. Many local families would be recognized for their contributions to the neighborhood. Emily had been nominated because of her volunteer work helping struggling mothers. It should have been a proud moment. Instead, she felt terrified. Many of the attendees came from wealthy and influential families. Some of them had already whispered cruel things about her in the past. They questioned how a single mother could raise a child properly. They judged her worn-out clothes and old car. Some even treated her kindness as weakness. As Emily entered the beautifully decorated hall, she immediately felt the familiar weight of judgment. Laughter echoed through the room. Families posed for photographs. Children ran around excitedly. Yet Emily felt like she did not belong. Lily noticed her mother's nervous expression and squeezed her hand gently. The little girl had inherited her mother's compassion. Even at 7 years old, she could sense pain hidden behind a smile. Emily forced herself to stay calm. For Lily. Always for Lily. Across the hall sat Daniel Brooks. Daniel was one of the city's most successful CEOs. His technology company had grown into a multi-million-dollar business, earning him respect and admiration everywhere he went. But success had not protected him from heartbreak. 3 years earlier, his wife had died after a sudden illness. Since then, Daniel had devoted himself to raising his son Ethan while burying himself in work. People admired his achievements. Few understood his loneliness. Every accomplishment felt incomplete without the woman who had shared his dreams. Every holiday reminded him of what he had lost. Even surrounded by hundreds of people, he often felt completely alone. As Daniel listened to the speeches around him, he noticed Emily standing quietly near the back of the room. There was something familiar about the sadness in her eyes. Not weakness. Not defeat. Pain. The kind of pain that only someone who had suffered deeply could recognize in another person. He looked away. Then looked back again. Something about her stayed in his mind. Meanwhile, Emily's fears began coming true. A group of wealthy guests started asking uncomfortable questions. Where was her family? Why had she come alone? Didn't she have relatives attending? The questions sounded innocent on the surface, but the hidden judgment was impossible to miss. Emily felt trapped. She knew the rumors. People already viewed her as an outsider. Standing alone in that room only seemed to confirm their assumptions. Then she noticed Daniel sitting nearby. She recognized him instantly. Everyone in the city knew who he was. A successful businessman. A respected father. A man whose opinion carried influence. Emily hated the idea forming in her mind. But desperation has a way of pushing people beyond their comfort zones. Taking a deep breath, she approached him. Her heart pounded. Her hands trembled. For a moment she almost turned back. Then she gathered every ounce of courage she had left. She explained her situation honestly. No excuses. No manipulation. Just the truth. She told him she felt embarrassed. She told him she was tired of being judged. She told him she only needed help for one evening. Then came the question. Can you pretend to be my brother? For a second, Daniel simply stared at her. He could see how difficult it had been for her to ask. He could see the humiliation she felt. Most importantly, he could see her determination to protect her daughter from embarrassment. The request was unusual. Awkward. Unexpected. Yet it touched something deep inside him. Because he understood what it meant to carry burdens alone. After a long pause, Daniel smiled gently. For tonight, yes. Relief flooded Emily's face so quickly that Daniel almost looked away. No one should have to feel that grateful for a simple act of kindness. But life had clearly taught her not to expect help. Together, they returned to the gathering. The transformation was immediate. People who had ignored Emily suddenly treated her differently. Conversations became warmer. Smiles appeared. Judgment faded. Daniel disliked what he was witnessing. Not because people were being kind. Because they had only become kind after associating Emily with someone influential. It revealed an uncomfortable truth about how society often works. Yet he remained beside her. Not for appearances. For Lily. The little girl looked happier than she had all evening. For the first time since arriving, she laughed freely. Soon Ethan joined her. The two children quickly became friends. Watching them play together awakened emotions Daniel had not felt in years. For a brief moment, he remembered family dinners, holiday traditions, and the warmth that had once filled his home. Emily noticed it too. She saw the sadness hidden behind his confident appearance. The loneliness beneath his success. The grief he still carried. As the evening continued, their conversations became more personal. They shared stories of loss. Stories of sleepless nights. Stories of trying to stay strong for their children even when their own hearts were breaking. Neither expected understanding. Yet they found it. For the first time in years, both felt truly heard. Hours passed quickly. The ceremony ended. Families began leaving. The children protested when it was time to say goodbye. Lily hugged Ethan. Ethan promised they would meet again. As Emily prepared to leave, she thanked Daniel sincerely. She expected the evening to end there. A simple act of kindness. Nothing more. But fate had other plans. Over the following weeks, unexpected encounters continued. A chance meeting at a bookstore. Another at a school event. Then a volunteer fundraiser. Each meeting felt natural. Comfortable. Neither seemed eager to admit how much they looked forward to seeing the other. Slowly, friendship developed. The kind of friendship built on honesty rather than perfection. Daniel admired Emily's resilience. Emily admired Daniel's humility despite his success. Most importantly, their children flourished together. Lily smiled more often. Ethan seemed happier. Both children finally had someone their own age who understood life without a mother or father. The bond between the families grew stronger. Yet emotional scars remained. Daniel still feared loving someone again. Emily still feared depending on anyone. Their past losses stood like invisible walls between them and happiness. Months passed. Spring arrived. Then summer. One afternoon, while watching the children play in a park, Daniel realized something that frightened him. For the first time since losing his wife, he was imagining a future again. Not a future filled with business goals. A future filled with family. The realization terrified him because hope always carries the risk of heartbreak. Emily experienced similar fears. She cared deeply about Daniel. But trusting someone completely felt dangerous. Life had already taken too much from her. Could she survive losing another person she loved? Neither knew the answer. Yet slowly, courage began replacing fear. Not because pain disappeared, but because they learned something important. Love is not the absence of loss. Love is the decision to keep opening your heart despite the possibility of loss. One evening, as the sun disappeared below the horizon, both families gathered for dinner. Laughter filled the room. The children argued playfully over dessert. For a moment, everything felt complete. Daniel looked around the table. At Ethan. At Lily. At Emily. And he realized that the simple promise he had made months earlier had changed everything. He had agreed to pretend to be a brother for one night. Instead, he had become part of a family. Before this story ends, tell us in the comments, which country are you watching from? We would love to know where our amazing viewers are joining us from. Sometimes the greatest blessings arrive disguised as small acts of kindness. A stranger offers help. A door opens unexpectedly. A single moment changes everything. Emily thought she was asking for a favor. Daniel thought he was helping someone for one evening. Neither realized they were stepping into a new chapter of life. A chapter filled with healing, hope, and the possibility of happiness again. And perhaps that is the most beautiful lesson of all. No matter how broken life feels today, tomorrow may introduce the person who helps you believe in hope again. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and comment below. Subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories that remind us of the power of kindness, family, and second chances. And don't forget to tell us which country you're watching from. Your support means the world to us.